Celebrating 10 years of award-winning car talk, it's the Wheel Time Show, your weekly go-to all things automotive place. Hi, along with Mike out of This World Mars, King Conrad DeLong, and Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong. Glad you could join us on this Saturday for our live broadcast. If you're listening on the podcast, this would probably be about Tuesday.
When? Tuesday?
I don't know.
Wednesday?
Somewhere in there. However that works.
1, 2, 3. Tuesday. Mm-hmm. This will be the 3rd. No, this will be the start of the 4th. Gosh, would you...
This will be Wednesday.
Yeah, this will be Wednesday.
You want some, don't you?
No, I don't. Thank you very
You want
much.
some of this, don't you?
So...
yeah. You're gonna try to fill
some airspace.
Kill the dead air? Okay, well, we don't have to do that.
Well, we can listen to you chew.
I know, I'm sorry.
So you heard that the semiconductor problem is still creating problems.
Huge problems.
With manufacturers and actually to the point where they're even talking about messing around with the summer break. You know, most all assembly plants get a couple of weeks off.
That's all done.
Model change,
get a couple of weeks
retooling.
Now that's going to be, an entire month off because they don't have enough chips
to build what they want.
It used to be 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Ford is still building what they can and parking it in the back lot, and then when the chips come in, they've built them to a point, and then all they have to do is go out and put the chips in.
And let the chips fall where they may.
Chips and salsa, right?
Yeah, the government needs to stay out of that business. They need to just butt out.
So did you watch the F1 race a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
It truly looks like Honda may have an engine that's going to be competitive with Mercedes. Mercedes has been so dominant in F1, and Honda's been out kind of bragging about we're going to challenge Mercedes this year.
Mercedes has a hybrid. They've got the hybrid motor.
Well, they all have. They're all a hybrid. They all have an electric boost.
Yeah, they're proud of it, and there's more advertising.
But Mercedes
and
has been so dominant for so many years. So, and this is Honda's last year in Formula One, and then the engine package and everything that they're building, they're going to give to Red Bull, and they're going to call it a Red Bull engine.
There you go.
A Red Bull engine?
Well, yeah, because Red Bull
has wings.
That's their primary. That's their primary engine provider is Honda.
Are you familiar with the big Ole 1969 Ford Bronco race truck that Parnelli Jones raced 50 years ago?
Ole or Ollie? Yeah, that's at Mecum right now.
Which truck is going on right now.
Well, it's going to be dumped on May the 14th through the 22nd, I think.
Well, Mecum always does that. They always have one of their premier cars will travel a few of the auctions ahead of time to build create the build up and the enthusiasm for it. But if you go to Mecum and watch the Mecum show on which the Houston show's live right now, or it doesn't start till 12:30.
Yeah, it's today.
They actually waited on Saturday till after our show before they started.
That was nice of them.
Yesterday it was on at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. I think was yesterday.
Anyway, this is a pretty cool truck. I mean, from many years ago, and actually 70, 71 raced.
Dominant.
Yeah.
Very dominant truck.
Yeah, huge. So
they were cheating, I'm sure.
Didn't Robbie Gordon do the off-road with that?
Not with that truck,
not this one.
But Robbie Gordon and the whole family is they've had a pretty big off-road history.
So at any rate,
and I read that Jeff Gordon had COVID or has COVID.
Oh, does he really?
I read that the other day.
Missed that one.
I did too. All right.
You had COVID or you read that?
There's a company called Derq, DERQ, and they work on autonomous systems. They develop them, they integrate them, do all sorts of things. We're going to find out exactly what they do because right now we are going to talk to the Vice President of Sales, Jamie Sullivan. Jamie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Very well, thank you, and thanks for joining us today. Jamie, I want to ask you to kind of put in a nutshell exactly what Derq does.
Sure. So our key focus is eliminating road fatalities, and we do that in a couple of ways, but essentially we want to add seconds back into the scenario before a collision happens to give people more of an opportunity to make a decision. And we do that by predicting the intent of vulnerable road users to step off of the road so a pedestrian, cyclist, disabled person, before they're going to step off the curb, we predict that. And we can share that information with vehicles or signage, wrapping flashing beacons, et cetera. And then we also combine different views of sensors like video and radar and things like that to get a comprehensive view to get lower false positives, higher accuracy, better data, so we don't make mistakes. And we do that, using artificial intelligence and machine learning and all those, great technology buzzwords of the day to kind of solve these things. And we have a really smart group of, PhDs and engineers working on this stuff. I mean, I joke, I have a master's degree and I'm the dumbest guy in the company. So I've got some really smart data scientists working on this stuff. So
your company is kind of an integration company is what they are.
So really, we're a software company.
Yes.
So we're that underlying software that's going to do. So if you think about all the new cars that are coming out with all the great sensors on them that can detect, whether you're in the right lane or you're going to run into a brick wall or those kinds of things. So that's all onboard perception. So what Derq does is all the offboard perception where vehicles can't see. Vehicles can't see around other vehicles, can't see around corners, can't predict, things that are happening off of the roadway. That's what Derq does. And then Derq shares that information with vehicles and other systems to help avoid these collisions. And then we do the analytics to help study these environments to provide, a safety component that will help cities and DOTs to understand, do they have a safety problem here and what should they do about it?
So are you employed by car manufacturers?
So we work with, OEMs. We work with engineering companies. We work with cities and state DOTs, distributors. There's lots of different folks that are starting to tackle this. There's no federal mandate for smart infrastructure in this country. There's some infrastructure legislation on the table today, but right now there's currently no mandate for smart infrastructure. So we're trying to feel all this stuff out to understand what's the best solution to technology to solve these problems.
Yeah, we've kind of figured out that smart in politics is an oxymoron, but we'll worry about that another day.
Yeah.
So what is the number? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so what is the number one thing that you guys are working on this week?
The main thing we're working on is today it's around analytics and intersection safety. So, most cities understand where their problem spots are. They know from crash data or public safety or, the transportation folks that work there, what are their intersections. But the problem is they don't necessarily know what specifically is the cause of the danger, and those are the things that because we can access just existing sensors and cameras at intersections and drop our analytics right on top of it and help determine what are the problems at that particular intersection. What should these do about fixing that? So that from a safety perspective, and I think there's a lot of focus that's coming out on pedestrian safety. Which is good. There's, the thing called Vision Zero. If you guys aren't familiar with that, that's the, kind of to get the zero deaths from, crash fatalities and things like that. So, there's good focus there, but there needs to be more. Most of it's just policy today. There's not really an emphasis on technology in that equation, and that's what we're trying to help solve.
Do you work with a company called Beep?
We've actually had some great conversations with Beep, and we were going to do probably a project with them had COVID not come along and done what it's done to everybody, right? And but so if and I saw Joe's interview with you guys. So if you think about Beep, what we would do for Beep is so you've got onboard sensors on a Beep shuttle that that allow it to detect pedestrians and things, but they don't go very fast, right? Because when they have to detect a pedestrian at the last second, they have to stop very abruptly. And if you've ever been on one of those autonomous shuttles and it stopped abruptly, it can throw you around. So what we do would be the infrastructure to communicate with that shuttle to allow it to go faster and give it more of a heads up that something is about to happen, and then the vehicle can transition slow to a more adjusted stop if you will, so that people aren't thrown around in the shuttles. That's the big challenge with autonomous shuttles, is that they can't go very fast because most of that detection and safety is on board.
Yeah. Is reactive.
Yeah, they're very reactive.
Reactive versus what you're doing. Your program is about making it more predictive than reactive. Reactive means I see it. Predictive means typically this is what's going to happen based on the view of the world. So you may see the person walking across the side street before they get out in the vision of the autonomous vehicle from the building, from other sensors that you have, and say, hey, here's somebody headed west on 1st Street, and they're going to hit that crosswalk, slow down, and be prepared for it, as opposed to they step out from the side of the building and they see it, all of a sudden we slam on the brakes.
Exactly, right? So it's not reactive. There's also some prediction in there. But it allows for a safer environment, and everybody wins.
And are you using existing hardware that's out there on the roads and in the industry, and making your creating your data from the existing hardware, or are you guys actually deploying hardware to help with the data acquisition?
Yeah, so we're doing both. So if cities and DOTs and OEM projects and pilots have existing sensors and that out there, we could take that data and process it through our platform. If there's not existing infrastructure and things there, we can prescribe hardware vendors that do a very good job of collecting that data and getting it to our platform. So we're modular and able to do both, and that's kind of what the DOTs and the cities like about us, because we're kind of hardware agnostic. We don't necessarily have to work with one particular vendor or another. Some of the hardware vendors are getting into this analytics space and trying to do it, and they'll only do it on their infrastructure. So it's kind of like your Verizon phone only works on Verizon, your AT&T phone only works on AT&T, et cetera. So that the goal is to get universal, because if we're going to achieve true autonomy at some point, there can't be hardware silos.
So are you also working inter-vehicle communication? Because I know that's got to be one of the next steps about autonomy, is car A has to talk to car B to help it determine what's going on and who's moving at what speed, and as they're coming together. And I know kind of there's a little bit of that going on, but not quite enough. And then your problem is with the guy with the 1974 car that isn't on the net, and how do you deal with them? So are you developing that componentry to get that inter-vehicle communication going on as well?
Yeah, so we're strictly the vehicle to infrastructure. So we'll tell car A and car B to be aware of each other, that they could potentially be in a collision scenario, predicting their trajectory and direction and those kinds of things. But car A and car B, they'll communicate with each other through some standards and some directive from the automotives. So that's where Ford and GM and those guys have to determine how those cars and those vehicles are going to communicate with each other. Right. And there'll be onboard systems. There already are onboard systems today that can do that.
OnStar.
They just have to start interoperating with each other, I guess.
So are you guys testing that interoperation? Because I know GM's OnStar's got a pretty fair GPS system in it, and a lot of data available. Are they giving you access to that to see how you can integrate it into your predictive analysis?
So there are some standards about safety messages and that we can just send to the automotives already today. So, and that's really all the data that they want. They're doing most of what they're trying to do from a safety perspective, within the vehicle themselves, because they can control that, right? So they can't control the infrastructure and the environment around them. So what they can control, that's their main focus. And then we've just become an ancillary data source for them to create an even safer environment for that vehicle as you start to think about, computers and humans interacting with each other. To really get to that true autonomy, those vehicles need to, take as many data sources as they potentially can. And then really what we also offer is redundancy to the onboard systems as well, because you much rather have two eyes or two sets of eyes looking at it than one.
So do you anticipate Derq being part of possibly crash analysis as well, and with that you become part of the litigation and point of discovery for whichever side of the attorneys want to collect your data?
Yeah. So we have that ability. We could do crash detection. We could do it real time. We could provide that data. The challenge is whether government wants it. There's all sorts of privacy concerns and things like that. The insurance companies would love to have it. The lawyers would love to have it. The cities don't want it today because they don't want to answer the phone every time there's a crash at one of their intersections and have to say, answer, hey, I want that video from, this particular incident because it exonerates my client or, defines fault or liability. The problem is cities don't have the resources to do that. But there's a great article that Bloomberg did about some of this, infrastructure legislation that's coming down the pipe, that if you do actually sell that data, you could actually pay for a lot of infrastructure by selling the data that's out there today that would make sense.
It's a revenue stream.
So. We need more infrastructure.
Well, yeah, that was kind of where I was headed with it is, it would be, to give it for free would be fruitless, but if they charge to give that data out, all of a sudden, there's a value to it and they start a new revenue stream. Now, is Derq pretty much built around safety, accident avoidance, pedestrian accident avoidance, or are you also going to try and help these cities with traffic flow itself, because the traffic flow tends to lead to the safety issues, and and if you guys through your data can say, hey, this on-ramp 200 feet from this off-ramp's dumb, close that on-ramp and let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're focused on, safety, planning, and economic development. So to your point, is a bus stop in the right place or is it in the wrong place because of safety?
Right.
Do people have to cross the middle of in the middle block instead of using a crosswalk to get to that bus stop? Right. So that's a planning and safety issue all in one. And in traffic flow, how are we seeing merges and those kinds of, where's things, traffic problems coming from? Yes, absolutely. And then even economic development. So, identifying the types of trucks and cars and types of vehicles that are coming through different areas, doing, counts of those types of vehicles to determine, should there be some economic growth in this area? Should there be more restaurants and coffee shops and gas stations, et cetera, et cetera?
There's enough Starbucks
there's lots
out there.
of opportunity to sell that data.
Yeah, there's enough Starbucks out there. We got them on every corner here in Houston.
Or the electrical plug for the electrical vehicles, too.
Yeah.
Right ahead. I'm on board.
Well, so in your view of 10 years from now, do you see it being maybe a little bit of and I'm going to go with a bad analogy, but it's the only one I can think of, the George Jetson world where the autonomous vehicles have lane access that non-autonomous vehicles don't have, and that lane access is, for lack of a better way to say it, controlled by Derq because you understand traffic flow, traffic safety, autonomous vehicle operation, and then people will get to move better in those autonomous lanes than the goober with his 74 model Fiat Panda.
Goober again.
Yeah. I think the goal is that you're going to have some type of isolation between autonomous vehicles and human driven, right? So computers and humans can't figure out and guess what the other is going to do. Maybe a computer can guess a little bit more what a human can do, but maybe not the other way around. But so there's a challenge of how do you interact, and I think the short term philosophies around this are. You build designated zones of just autonomous only in more densely packed, densely crowded parts of city, and it eventually turns into public transit is really what it is. It's another alternative form of public transit.
Or like
so maybe where buses and trains, are more expensive to deploy, maybe you use Beep and those types of autonomous shuttles to move people more first mile, last mile types of
which are more
spaces.
flexible in routing. Because
Absolutely.
trains aren't flexible.
I think in some cities they're learning this where they could do, and Uber has taught, a lot of people about, people are willing to pay, custom pricing to get, from point A to point B. And I think the shuttle and transit companies are learning this too, that they can now start, taking your mass transit authority buses and they're smaller shuttles now, but you might see them in your suburban neighborhood as opposed to in a more downtown area.
That'll take them out of the neighborhood and take them to a railhead where they can move on trains as well. Interesting.
Or I could even see another changing autonomous driving vehicles, because I'm visualizing an HOV type thing to where, coming down the Katy Freeway, here's a lane. Right. It's built specifically, dedicated, so it's got all the markings that the vehicle can recognize.
Well, even downtown, if downtown proper, Central Business District, they've got lanes for buses, although the buses are not autonomous, they're driven.
Right.
And then they also have bike lanes, too, that are designated. So
let's introduce human-ridden bicycles around all these autonomous vehicles.
I'm just saying that
see how good Derq is about predicting stupidity.
They're already segregating lanes, is what I'm saying.
Right. But then but the idea of saying, okay, I've got a kind of a neighborhood type setup. Now I can go to your railhead, which is going to take me downtown on a certain autonomous vehicle setup, and then I can change over and get around downtown.
Right. I think that's what he was talking about. First mile, last mile.
Right. But I can see tying them together. So that's going to be the key, is the transition.
So where is your biggest customers right now? And customers might not be the right phrase, but where are you most active with Derq nationwide right now?
So there's some great things going on in Michigan and Ohio. Some things going on in Nevada, California. We hope to be in Texas and Arizona here soon. And so as you think about cities that want to, there's this race for cities to attract, jobs and people. And, the cities that are trying to do their best to attract companies, Texas has got a good, a bonus of a low company tax incentive right now. So you got a lot of companies moving there. But so, you want to incentivize people to move to your specific cities. So, a lot of that is going to be for those cities that are going to be aggressive about introducing new technologies. Because this next generation of folks who are coming up and coming out of schools and things like that now, they want technology to really run their lives. I don't want to date myself, but I'm 50 now, so I don't necessarily want technology running my life. I like the hybrid approach, but more folks that are growing up with who now this.
Yeah, I think we lose them. Yeah, it sounds like we might have dropped him.
Jamie, if you can hear us, we've lost you. We're going to say goodbye to you, but we thank you so much. Jamie Sullivan, Vice President of Business Development North America for Derq. That's DERQ USA Incorporated. Great insight into AI.
Mm-hmm. And I've posted a link to their website on our Facebook page.
Very nice. All right. Hey, just a reminder, we'd love to hear from you. Just shoot us an email. The address is info@inwheeltime.com. I have one of the stories that I've really been wanting to get in.
Okay.
U.S. auto industry has roared back from the pandemic, notching its strongest March sales in more than 20 years. But the widening microchip shortage now threatens to pinch supplies of many highly profitable and popular vehicles at a time when consumer demand is surging. First quarter retail sales climbed 26%, according to J.D. Power. That's huge, my friends.
That's big.
But with no certain end to the microchip issue on the horizon, automakers could soon exhaust solutions for mitigating the shortage. Inventories have fallen by 20,000 vehicles since mid-March and plunged to the lowest point since mid-January, according to Cox Automotive. Stockpiles industry-wide are 21% lower than a year ago. GM's inventory is just half the size it was a year earlier. Gains by Japanese and European automakers significantly outpaced those by the Detroit 3 in the first quarter. Most of the transplant companies either doubled or nearly doubled their March 2020 volume last month. Ford Motor Company's 26% jump was by far the smallest March gain among the 7 companies that report monthly results. Stellantis, which is the FCA, Chrysler, Ford, Dodge, Jeep, all that, achieved a 5.1% first quarter gain, with its Ram pickup jumping ahead of the Chevy Silverado again by more than 24,000 vehicles. Wow. That is significant.
And driven by inventory, that may continue.
Yeah.
Because Chevy's having problems in production, and it doesn't sound like Ram is having the same issues with production.
It's going to turn into, and I've predicted this for months, it's going to turn really ugly this summer, especially as we approach the summer driving season, and there are still a lot of people that, I'm not going to get on an airplane packed full of people just yet. And then we're going to have a family road trip.
And model changeover, you know. And the other thing that happens as inventory goes down, days supply goes down, factory incentives goes down.
Yes,
you know,
all of
because
that.
It's all the incentives is purely driven by days supply. So if they've got 120 days supply, they really bump up the incentives to lower the days supply. But if they're down to 40, 50 days supply, I'm not real sure they want incentives
or need
at
to.
that point. Yeah, well, it's more want because, you know, what if they strip all the inventory out? That's painful because they have no replacement inventory coming in.
Good example of that is when the rental cars, when COVID hit, they sold off all the inventory.
And there is none.
They can't get them.
Let me tell you something. Have you seen how much they're getting for rent cars?
I saw it on TV.
Holy Toledo, $500 a week.
Yeah.
Oh, Angie was going into Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. It was like $250 a day. Are you serious?
There is a way around that. They were saying if
take
you do,
Uber.
Find out what it is for a daily, and then there might be a clause in your contract if it's for a week for $500 for the week. If you return it early, you get credited back. Because a lot of these are pay up front. So there are clauses where you can do that. If you only need it for 3 days, rent it for a week and then exchange it.
Well, I think that the rule should be going forward, if you're in the market for a car, new or used, you need to really hoof it over to a dealer, get online, whatever it is that you want to do to purchase a new car. But
quickly.
I would do it quickly in the next few weeks.
Pre-owns are getting
that's what I'm saying.
Inventory.
And pre-owned cars, price is going up on those as well.
Absolutely.
Quick break now. You're on the In Wheel Time Car Show. Stay with us.
The Tailpipes and Tacos monthly cruise-in has become so popular you'll be able to attend at more locations. Enjoy fabulous Houston car culture at any of the 4 participating Lupi Tortilla Tex-Mex restaurants. Tailpipes and Tacos will be held in Tomball at Highway 249 near 2978, Bay Area Boulevard near the Gulf Freeway in Webster, the Grand Parkway just south of I-10 and Katy, and the Kirby location off the Southwest Freeway. Tailpipes and Tacos is the place to enjoy made-to-order breakfast tacos, fresh coffee, and awesome cars. Mark your calendar for Saturday, April 17th for the next Tailpipes and Tacos at one of the 4 participating Lupi Tortilla Mexican restaurants, 8 to 11 a.m. Tailpipes and Tacos is free and everyone is invited. See collector cars, hot rods, customs, originals, and resto mods. Cars from all over Southeast Texas cruise in and show off in this friends and family event. Start your Saturday off right at Houston's hottest cruise in. Tailpipes and Tacos, April 17th, 8 to 11 a.m. Participating Lupis are located in Tomball, Katy, West University, and Clear Lake. April 17th. In real time, we'll be broadcasting from the West University location on the Southwest Freeway, weather permitting.
Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Zekin. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com. If you're in charge of your company's small, medium, or large business anywhere in the U.S., let the On Hold Company help you retain customers and promote your business on your telephone system. Promote special sales or company info when placed on hold. The On Hold Company provides custom on-hold messages with professional male or female voices, licensed background music with no long-term contract, no monthly recurring bill, and updates your messages as needed. Call the On Hold Company at 713-223-HOLD or go to onhold.net.